Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of August 5th, 2026 at 7:01 PM. First thing on our agenda is a reorganization. However, Mr. Heaney had an emergency as an excused absence. We're going to suspend that until the next meeting, and we'll do the reorganization when he's here. It only makes sense. The first agenda item is a continued hearing for Westview LLC, case number 2026-03 for 30 Southwest Main Street, a comprehensive permit. Is any representatives for that property here?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm the attorney, Peter Freeman, and Mr. Pedrosi.
Yeah, so you're going to have to come sit and take a chair, sit at the table, and you can use the microphone. So it's for the minute taker.
Yes, that's
we can move this chair over for you.
okay, great, that's fine.
You might as well be a little more comfortable.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thanks.
You just have to, you can take this one.
Fine. Thanks. So again, for the record, attorney Peter Freeman representing the applicant, and that's Mr. Pedrosi, whom you know through the remote. I do see Mark Gates' name. He's our architect. I'm sorry, he is our engineer, civil
one
engineer,
of those,
as you know, one of those, yeah. Exactly, professional. So Mark is here. We don't intend any real presentation, but if you have questions, he, of course, is knowledgeable on the plans. In terms of revisions to plans, for two reasons. For the next hearing, we should have a new set that has revisions, including something which I know you're interested in, and I think you would like, that we will be filing with the Conservation Commission a notice of intent. So as you know, those require, more detailed plans. Correct. And we did hire a wetlands and an environmental specialist, Rich, who am I blanking on his last name, Kirby, from LEC Environmental, one of the preeminent environmental firms. I work with them a lot. So that's why we don't really have any plans to present tonight, but we will have them for the next hearing. We hope that there will be peer review selected and review in time for the back and forth between the peer reviewer and our engineer, Mark, for the next hearing. So that's really what I wanted to start off with, at least. As you know, I sent a letter after the last hearing, and I apologize. It probably was operator error, but I really couldn't connect. I really wanted to be able to connect. Yep. But in any case, so I had, after that, because I wasn't able to go over it at that hearing, I did submit a letter to you folks, and we do want to get the peer review going. So I don't know if you had a chance to review that with Stantec, if you want to go over it tonight, but, it's certainly appropriate to have peer review, but there were, the reasons that I stated, and I don't know how you want to handle that, but we would like to have Stantec on board, but we do feel as though the comments that I made are justified.
Yep, so when it went out to Stantec, it went out as an RFP instead of an RFQ. And that probably caused a little confusion. So based on what they were asked is how they were responded. Okay. So obviously they can only review what's been submitted. They can't hypothetically come up with things. But we need to have, this board needs professional guidance from an engineer and from town council. This is Kate Conley. She's the land council for the town of Douglas. Sure. And there's a little confusion as to what's going to be paid for, and that needs to be understood as to how this is going to be paid for, right? And we wouldn't have Kate sitting here. We wouldn't have Stantec sitting here if we weren't doing this project. It's not a normal occurrence for us to have town council or a peer review engineer here. Not trying to make it difficult for the applicant, not trying to cause them any more costs. Actually, make it more efficient for the applicant. You can get all your questions answered on the same evening instead of waiting 30 days to get a response back from peer review or the town attorney. This is something that your side of the table needs to figure out as to how do we come to a conclusion as to what's fair and reasonable, right? I'm thinking that, and this is not unusual, we're doing a 40B project that's almost in completion now. It's in the fourth phase. It's been going on since 2016. And that's had a peer review engineer on it from day one. And everything that they do there, monitoring, we have a report in here tonight for that particular project. They give us complete reports, and that gets paid for through the 53G account. Not trying to make it any more rigid for these people than necessary, but all of us, A, we're volunteers, and B, this isn't what we do for work on the most part, right?
Agree.
I'm talking in generalities.
No,
okay?
agree.
Well, and plus, we don't represent the town in a legal aspect, right? Somewhat, because we're on the zoning board, but we're not peer reviews for the town. We're not legal counsel for the town. So I don't think it's unreasonable to have that kind of services rendered to us. But if you came forward with the project, so it would be reasonable that you would pay and bear the cost. That's what the 53G account is for, right? We can't authorize any work to be done without knowing how it's going to be paid for. So we got into a little pickle with your rejection of the fees from legal counsel at the onset. Still hashing through that. As of right now, the money's still in the 53G account. We'll hash through that and figure out what's the best course of action. But moving forward, for the benefit of your client, we need to come to a conclusion as to how you want to proceed. If you're coming in with a new set of plans next month, we've already had two different versions. The first time they came in, they had a set of plans that had a retention pond at the base of the hill by the street with an overflow in it. They also had a pump chamber for the septic system that was feeding half of it. That was questioned. I personally questioned the retention pond with the overflow going to a body of water that's there. So then the next meeting they came back, they had a subsurface stormwater control system with an overflow, and the pump chamber was gone. Which one's getting reviewed? So I guess what I'm trying to get at is, what plan do you want done? If neither one of these are being done, then it's on hold. If you're bringing in one next month, I guess, then that will be the plan that goes out to peer review and have it reviewed by them.
Sure, a few things, and I appreciate your explanation. And believe me, we're very largely in agreement. I have no objection whatever to the 53G account and peer review for the engineering and those types of things that were outlined in Stantec. And, I welcome Ms. Connolly as well. I think it's great to have knowledgeable, good counsel. I've worked with your firm, Caris North, and some others. I'll come back to the legal fees because I have sort of an idea, and I purposely didn't write a letter. I sent one email to Kathleen, but I guess we didn't have a chance to talk. And I said that I largely agree. So I'll come back to that, but I didn't want it to appear to you folks that it was confrontational, because it's not. And I appreciate the way you just put everything. We'll work that out. On the 53G, absolutely, the engineering and any other review for those types of things on the plans, absolutely. It's just a question of working out the scope. The changes of the civil engineering plans that you mentioned, that's typical of a 40B. There's some back and forth. Your question is very appropriate at the end of what you said as to which plans do we want reviewed, and we definitely want the plans reviewed that will be submitted. There are differences, there's no question. It's the same project. We're not changing the scope of the project, but on stormwater related matters, there will be changes with the benefit of the LEC professional. I guess I'm really being redundant, but what we would want and expect is that we can work out what Stantec will do in their contract and have you authorize it and get them going. We do believe that next week we'd be ready to send them the plans.
Yep. So we did authorize them, voted to accept them as our peer review.
Okay.
And we went one, and I personally went one step further. I asked our administrative assistant in the community development to pull out the hourly fees for Stantec as well as Haley and Wood. Haley and Wood is the one that's on the other 40B. Right? Because I'm trying to make sure that you're being treated fairly.
Yep.
And to my surprise, which I thought it was the opposite, Stantec is actually lower, but I think you're going to get better service. So I was relieved that we made a good decision on that, but I just wanted to make sure when you question the fees, it made me question, all right, so did I make a mistake? And I don't feel that I made a mistake. I think it's in everybody's best interest to have that firm to represent the town, but also just to review your project.
I mean, Stantec is totally qualified.
Right.
I've worked with them, they're so big, different people.
Right.
They're excellent. We could probably live with and work with them in terms of, the fees if you haven't asked them to reduce it. I guess the main things that would be important, because this, again, not in any way wanting to be confrontational, but I do have to draw the line on at least a couple of things, which one of them is pretty simple. It isn't a subdivision plan, so they just need to be aware of that.
It was a labeling thing.
Yeah, exactly.
They understand it's the 40B. They just generalize it as a subdivision
That's right,
plan.
and it's technically not a shared septic system. But
it's not a shared. Stop for a minute.
That's technical in terms of the DEP regulations. It's a condominium system. It's not individual homes and individual homeowners, fee simple. It is controlled by the condo association. So I understand your question.
Yep.
I'm familiar with it, but I think it makes more sense to, let Mark explain that, either now if you want to, but also when the peer review starts, that can be discussed. But that doesn't affect the scope. I mean, clearly.
No, it doesn't change the process.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's actually, if I can interrupt you, and that's a good example. See, because in my mind, that's a shared system,
I hear
right?
you. Yeah, I hear you.
That's where a professional engineer is going to come in, and they're going to either agree or disagree, and they have a basis for that instead of just an opinion on it.
Yeah. So the two, I'll call them the two biggies, but we don't believe that it is necessary or appropriate for Stantec to actually review the wetlands delineation and go out, their proposal said go out in the field and do that. They can certainly review what we come up with, although now, especially that we are filing with the Conservation Commission, they will either accept or ask for further information and come up with the delineation. So that's one thing that I don't think.
Yep. So let me just address that real quick. I want to do it as we go through it, so that way I don't have to try to remember because I'm old.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be uncommon for the Conservation Commission to also use Stantec for their peer review. So if they end up using them, they end up using them. So
that's fine.
I have no idea. These boards don't intermingle like that, so I don't know what they're going to use.
And that was one of the things I said. We don't want to pay twice. If Stantec does it in Concom, then that's
reasonable.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I would object to that myself if I seen that it was already reviewed by Conservation and then it came to us. I would object to it going forward to our peer review. It's just not fair in general terms.
Right. So the next one that I'm looking at is number 7, and I'll read the sentence itself. From their proposal, services to include a professional civil environmental engineer to review and model the existing public water system in the vicinity of the development for water supply capacity and flow rates. So my objection is it's not appropriate under 40B for them to analyze the existing system in terms of studying its capacity and doing the modeling that they're talking about. The town can do that, but that's not an applicant's responsibility. How our project might affect what the town already has, yes, absolutely, that is appropriate. But this goes further than that. A lot of towns have for their water or sewer, not sewer system here, but the water system they have. In fact, Haley and Aldrich coincidentally does lots of, that work for municipalities on water systems. So that is information that the town should have or is responsible for getting if you need to learn more about it in terms of how our project would impact it. But to do the entire modeling and come up with what the system's capacity is before our project even is discussed, that's not our responsibility as applicant. So, as I said, reviewing, what our project does. If, for example, I mean, and they should know what their capacities are and the system infrastructure and all of that, and if they say, look, we only have X gallons and we don't have anything available, we would check into that and find out and see if it meets the 40B standards and all of that. But that's the distinction that I raised in my letter, and that's where, I think Stantec has to be aware of that. So I'll just look quickly and see if there's anything else.
Through the chair?
Yes.
It's okay, I've got a question on that, number 7. It says here, case law are very clear that municipalities must provide public utilities such as water to affordable housing projects.
Yep.
Even if there isn't enough volume or capacity or pressure, you still must.
It gets more complicated, and I wasn't trying to write a legal tome. And
Yeah.
again, not trying to be in any way, adversarial, certainly. I hope we don't have to be. But the basic idea is, unless there is a significant financial impact that's caused by physical topographical considerations, like if to extend the pipe, you had to go through bedrock, that would probably mean, okay, in that situation, it's difficult, virtually impossible for the town to provide it, so either the developer pays for it or something else has to be done. With, be it water or sewer, in this case, I know it's just water, the town system is what it is, and if there isn't capacity, then analysis has to be done as to why, how do you get more water, and does it meet the standards of that 40B regulation as to still being the burden of the town? And we understand, in the case law from Housing Appeals Committee, make clear that the Housing Appeals Committee knows that it can be burdensome to a town. So it's not anything cavalier, oh, we don't care, just you're responsible. And there's a body of case law, and I've litigated many of those cases. So yes, my position is correct. The amplification that I gave, there are limited circumstances where it may just be so unfeasible that it would meet the standards and the regulations in the case law.
Yeah, so if the town had the capabilities of bringing the water there, then they would be required to bring it. But say, for argument's sake, that their water tank was such a distance away that you didn't provide enough volume and pressure, the town wouldn't be obligated to put in a new water tank.
Well, I'd take the position that they would be, and then it gets into analysis of the feasibility. And like I said, if to get that line to our location had to go through bedrock, then I think you would win on that. If it's just a normal, running the water mains in, a typical public way, I don't think that you would win.
It'll be interesting to see how
I know,
that plays.
and we don't want to,
Interesting to see how that plays out.
Just a question through the chair. And
Well, actually, I'm running the meeting, so if he wants
I
to
agree.
speak, I'll
Yes,
allow him.
thank you. I'll
to
go
do
through
that.
you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
no,
I'm not trying to be rude to you, but
No,
we
you're not
can't have a
rude. No,
bunch
no,
of
no,
cross-talk.
you're right.
No, appreciate it. So I think my concern with that, number 7, is that the modeling that the water department would have to go do. They'd have to go, if it's not relatively available to them, or looking at saying, okay, we're taking on this many users, they have to do the modeling to figure out, is there ample supply and stuff like that. So why wouldn't that be underneath the applicant to pay for that consulting work to be done? Because it's outside of the water department's normal day-to-day operation.
First an answer and then a question through the chair, if I may.
Yes.
So the answer is, I can't imagine that a town doesn't know what their capacity is and what their situation is. Whether they've modeled recently, I don't know. But the first step is to find out what do they know, and if they need more analysis of their existing system, I just have to go back to what I said. Based on the regulation and the case law, it's the town's responsibility to know what that is. And so really that, if I may, through the chair.
Yeah.
So my question is, have you spoken to the water department? What is their feedback? What is their knowledge of the situation of the water for this project?
We're not there yet, because other than knowing that you're going to put 30-plus houses in the woods, you haven't really presented something that you want reviewed, right? So if you're balking at all the things, so this board has not forwarded it to them, so you go ahead and give us the answers, because somebody needs to pay for that. I'm back to my original statement, right? So we got to get to a point where we got to send this out and have peer review give us their opinion on it, right? I appreciate that, everything that you said. I'm not saying that I doubt it or anything, but you don't represent the town, so I need to make sure that we get information that's going to help this board make decisions.
Understood, if I may.
Yeah.
So do you want to go for, I don't know if you wanted to say something else before I do.
No, I'm in line with the chair. And, you know, I mean, it's, we're already talking about the third revision of this plan. So I think the big thing is making sure that the revision that is shared with the ZBA is the same revision shared with conservation. So we don't lose, you know, data and the plan revisions. So we're not on Plan C and they're on Plan D. And, you know, because when, you know, it goes before for each board to decide or vote on, I want to make sure the plans are in sync. So we're already on the third revision.
Understood, and I already responded to that earlier, and we agree. But if I may, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, just
Yep.
a few more.
Yep.
I mean, I do have to push back somewhat with what you said,
Right.
because we didn't get the Stantec proposal until, at this point, I think roughly a month ago. So it could have been handled a long time ago, number one. Number two, the water, as to what this gentleman, I don't see the nameplate, but what this gentleman said, the changes in the plans relate to stormwater and perhaps septic. It's not going to affect the water. That's point two. Point three is that under the 40B regulations and common practice, the regulations indicate that the town zoning board, when they get the application, is supposed to send the application, the whole package, to the various constituent town boards and departments, including water department. And then they have an opportunity to review and to comment. And especially with 40B, it's true, there are just very preliminary plans. There aren't details on the water supply plans themselves, but there's nothing esoteric about that. The question that the water department should have been looking at and should look at now, and we welcome their feedback, is, okay, this project, as you said, it's 30 units, I forget how many bedrooms.
30 plus.
Right,
Yeah.
right, whatever it is, yes. And so that's X gallons per day, and we know where our water mains are, and presumably they come to the site and all of that, and they could easily have done that analysis already and given you a large part of the feedback that you want without the need for any, modeling study. So again, I would like to move forward positively on that basis,
Yeah.
but, and I welcome input from Ms. Connolly. That's the way 40B is intended to run, and we want the feedback from the water department. And then they, then of course Stantec would review, again, what they say as to the existing system in the town and capacity, and how our project impacts it.
Okay.
So, yes, we want Stantec to get going, but we are going to have a bit of a, shall I just say it, unfortunately, a bit of a standoff if they bill $5,000 for doing modeling on the project. That's not appropriate.
Yeah, and that's one particular item. So is there anything else in this?
The only thing was the last one, which is
Number
just the phase two things. Yeah, the phase. Well,
Phase two
phase eight is
says
just
construction
extra.
oversight not included in this revised scope and fee proposal. So did you get a copy of this last,
No, all I had was the one from,
the original one?
yeah. No, I didn't get anything. If somehow.
Oh, let's see what I got here for you.
Yep.
I had assumed. Got the copy. But this one is, you can have this.
Okay.
And I'll make sure, I thought I got emailed to you.
Okay.
It's dated June 30th.
Yeah, July 30th, yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean, so far there were revisions that are consistent with what I said, so
Okay.
just a little bit more time. Well, I do think that this seems okay. They have modified the biggest one that we've just been talking about, the water system modeling and all. They simply say, reviewing plans demands water system layout, flow test, compliance with Town of Douglas criteria, which I don't have a problem with. I mean, again, they're not going to be fully developed at this stage, but I'm sure they've reviewed 40B projects, so, they can work with our engineer on that. The hydraulic modeling, what they say is utilize existing hydraulic model, add project water system layout and expected demands, just like I said. Evaluate pressures, demands, and that's something, I don't know if flow tests have been done, water pressure tests, but that's certainly appropriate. If it hasn't been done in the water department, you folks want that, that's fine. And that's what they're getting into in, I think, the last sentence. So that actually speaks to my suggestions, my
Yeah,
critique.
so I apologize if you didn't get a copy of this, as I'm sitting in for the chairman tonight. I am the vice chairman on it, but
Yep.
there's roles that I don't fill during normal things.
Yeah.
I had assumed that you had a copy of that because we're all reading from the same thing, and then as you were going through it, made me question
Yeah.
whether or not you had it. So I guess what I'm looking for on this, is there any of these items on this particular proposal that you object to? We're going to wait until you get your actual plan that you want to have reviewed.
Correct.
Which I would assume that's going to, you can email it directly to Stantec if you want.
Sure. We'll obviously file it with you guys.
To try to help move this process along.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, we're going to be like turtles in the sand until we get
Absolutely.
anywhere.
No, I appreciate that. I know it's happening now.
But any communication that you send to Stantec, you need to copy Jen Kutcher on.
Oh, absolutely,
And
yeah.
the community development, so then the town's always apprised of any information that's being forwarded. Likewise, backwards, they should be copying the town as well.
Yeah. No, I would say go ahead with this. The modifications meet, I mean, if I miss something a little bit, we'll work it out with Stantec, but it does look as though it speaks to, my
So
concerns.
so you're fine with the
So go
proposal as
forward,
it
yeah.
stands today?
Yeah,
Okay.
with the July 3rd.
Is there anything on what they have now that they can review, or you want to wait until that new plan comes in? We're going to totally scratch all this stuff that you have?
I think the reality is that it only makes sense for them to wait, and just
Okay,
look at the
that's
whole new
fine.
package. Yeah.
No.
All right,
One
good.
second, I'm going to ask him a question, then I'll come back to you, Les.
Okay.
When do you, and I don't recall what you said, when do you plan on having the next set of plans?
We're hoping for next week. Mark, if you can
Okay.
hear, and if through the
Yep.
chair, if Mark, you can answer.
Your volume's low,
volume's
Mark.
down.
Volume.
Sorry.
Yeah, that one
Sorry.
could-
I got a little bass in my voice, so I usually do that. I don't know, Mark, we can't hear you. You know sign language? Is there any way to turn up his volume? No? Mark, you're going to have to turn up your volume somehow or another.
Well, really, it's just a question of the timing, Mark. Can you maybe call, if you have my cell phone, or call Daniel, do you have your cell phone if it's on? Mark, so if you can hear us, and it's just, when do you expect to have these revised NOI level plans filed with the ZBA and Concom? I think it was this coming week, but since the audio isn't working, just call Daniel if you can, and we'll get the answer.
if you could send an email that you're agreeable to this, just so it's.
Yeah,
we have
absolutely.
it,
Yep.
Instead of
Yep.
going through the tape. So I had instructed Stantec not to participate tonight until we hash this out, because I didn't want either side to incur costs for no reason.
Yeah.
Right?
I appreciate that.
As we move forward, I think it would be not only appropriate, but probably in your best interest to have them join the meetings, so then we can be a little more proactive and get these questions answered quicker than.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, that'll help,
Yeah.
as you just said, quicker. That'll
Yeah.
help expedite that, which naturally we want.
Yep. And as far as our counsel, I believe that if you're going to be representing your client at these meetings, it would be appropriate that we had counsel here as well.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I was going to come back to that, so since it does look like,
Well, we got to wait for Mark to figure out his volume.
but true, I'll wait.
No, you can
Did he tell you?
talk and then,
Oh, he didn't, okay, well, so I think the regulation is clear. What's not clear, typical regulation, okay, it says for the routine or the ordinary course, in effect, is what the regulation says. I agree, it doesn't say that there are never any legal fees that could be, paid for by the applicant. But I know from case law, and again, Sugar Bush is one, and LeBlanc versus Amesbury is another, where legal fees were discussed. Having your counsel, and it's a benefit to us, I agree. Having your counsel here, coming to the ZBA hearings, answering questions that come up, even, reviewing plans in the fashion that a lawyer does, not as a peer reviewer, those are considered the routine legal services that the applicant is not supposed to pay for. But that said, unless I hear, protest or some pushback from Ms. Connolly, I'm perfectly content to work with her, and if she thinks something should be paid for by the board, perhaps you could inform me first, whether it's a copy of the bill or roughly what it is and why you think it should be paid. And I'm sure we could work it out.
Yeah.
And again, on the 53G, there's no issue of funding the 53G, and I appreciate in Ms. Connolly's letter back to me that she said that what's been paid so far would be credited in the account. I don't know the logistics of how that would work, so
yeah, that still has to be worked out. And
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you, that Ms. Connolly has no authority to refund money from the town and stuff like that. You just don't, right?
Right.
And I'm sure there's case law on that as well, but I'm not going to play lawyer tonight.
Oh, no,
But
If I may,
anyway,
Mr.
no,
Chair.
one second,
Okay.
let me finish my thought, and then you can
I'm
have it.
agreeing with him.
Right. We can't get into a situation, this body cannot have Ms. Conley come and then figure out who's going to pay it later on. It just doesn't work that way, right? And as I stated before, if we weren't doing this project, she wouldn't be here, right? We don't have her come for, there's, if you look on it, we have North Brown discussion and we have minutes. North Brown discussion, we're just going to look at the report that came in from Haley and Wood, and we're going to move on our merry way. When on the onset of a project like this is the most crucial time of the project, because we need guidance, legal guidance or guidance from an engineer. And this isn't the normal situation. A 40B isn't normal, because if it was the typical thing, it would be going through the planning board, and yes, they would have their normal process, go back and forth and figure out what waivers and what their site condition rules and regulations are and stuff like that. This is something different, that it requires legal guidance as well as a peer review engineer for guidance. So that's just my opinion, and Ms. Conley is going to speak on it because I stopped her mid-sentence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just going to add that when I wrote back to you in response to your email or your letter to the town about consultant fee funds, and I explained that what the Mass Department of Revenue says about them, what the case law says. You mentioned the Amesbury case. I mentioned a couple of others to the town. There are certain legal fees, as you know, that can be covered if they're title issues or anything outside the ordinary.
Yes.
But I also stayed out of the accounting mechanism or whatever. That's not up to me, as the chair correctly stated. I simply said that we will not assess legal fees for ordinary things to your client, but I didn't go back and say that I was refunding anything or that I had the authority to do that. So that's something the town and their accountant will.
Oh, no, I fully understand that you don't have authority, but if I printed the letter, I thought what you said was, rather than dispute the fees in this case, talking about the past fees, legal fees, however, the board is willing to waive fees to date for any legal services of submittals, attendance at hearings, and answering questions about interpretations of the statute or regulations. So, that was in the letter. I don't expect you to be the one that contacts the town treasurer, however it works, but that...
Finance director.
Right.
Nobody wants to contact them.
Right. That I don't know. But what you just said after, verbally just now, that's totally in keeping with what I'm saying, and the reason why it doesn't speak to the real issue, Mr. Vice Chairman,
Yeah.
is...
Well, I'm chairman tonight. You can
because-
use whatever.
True, Chairman tonight, is because, by definition, a regulation that talks about legal fees on 40B is talking about just that, not the fact that the 40B is special compared to other municipal permitting. So under 40B, and I don't have to, beat it to death because Ms. Conlon just agreed with me, those ordinary things that she just described, those are the things which the town is supposed to pay for, not the applicant. I agree with your example, title. I don't know if something else more esoteric came up, but yes, those are things that are not in the ordinary course of reviewing a 40B. So if that's, and I would say it is, unless, again, Ms. Connolly disagrees, I can represent that something that you believe is out of the ordinary course, the applicant would pay for. I would hope we wouldn't dispute it based on what you just said. We agree on what is normally not paid for by the applicant. So, rest assured that that's how we would handle it. I don't think you'll have to worry about not having the appropriate legal fees, if that happens, paid for by my client.
How you make it out, Mark?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, if everybody's really quiet, we might be able to hear you.
Okay. So going back to when the freedom would be submitted,
Yes.
we'd like to have, you said we would like to have LEC have a chance to comment on this decision, filing notice of intent, make sure all the details, and we would like to see the plan based on that.
Did you say filing on the 10th?
I did not. I said once we get some feedback from LEC Environmental.
Okay, so any rough idea what the timing would be on that?
Any changes they would require of me would only take me, a day or two, but I can't speak for when they're going to be able to review that. It was supposedly be by the end of this week.
Okay.
So it's not an unbreakable timing commitment, but obviously we want to get it done. So, Mark, I think what the hope is that if they do get things back to you this week and it only takes you a day or two to revise, then there is a reasonable chance that, yes, the revised plans could be filed next week. So that's what we will push for.
Yeah. And as he said, he has no control over his consulting engineer.
Right.
Nor do we have on Stantec, so hopefully they'll have enough time to review it and get back comments to us prior to our next meeting.
Yes. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
On that point, you already helped to move things along by saying that Mark could file the plans also directly with Stantec. Once they start looking, would you authorize Mark, that maybe that they would have a question first, but you could let Stantec know that in the course of review, even if it might be before they write up the report, their report, that they could contact Mark directly and vice versa?
As long as the town is copied on correspondence.
Sure.
Right? If they're having a telephone conversation, there needs to be some sort of follow-up email or something that states what the context of that
Sure.
conversation was.
Yeah.
And by no way can Stantec make any promises or represent this board's decisions in any way.
Yeah.
So that's,
Understood.
I know it's obvious, but
No,
since
it's
we're
worth-
talking in
it's
in
important to
very
say it.
distinct terms, we
Yeah.
might as well be clear about it.
And I agree. So Mark, note that if Stantec, contacts you, or you want to ask them something, just memorialize it after the fact with a quick email.
Correct.
Yeah.
The safest way is if they just correspond back and forth with an email.
Yeah,
Then
these days,
then there's
that's
no
usually the way
question
anyway.
about anything.
Right,
What's
telephones
that?
are almost obsolete, so, yeah.
Yeah. And Les and I had the same exact conversation not too long ago about voicemails versus conversations versus text. It's always safer to put it in writing, so. Not to be difficult, but it just protects everybody involved.
No, I agree.
All right, so we're going to wait. Stantec will wait to hear from you guys. I'll have Jen email them and make them aware of the fact that you're going to be, that I guess Mark Gates is going to contact them?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Mark, would you mind, do you have Bill Glenn's email from Stantec?
I don't think I do.
Could you email Jen in Community Development? Do you have her email?
Yes, I do.
All right. Email Jen and ask her, or just send her an email and let her, have her contact Stantec and let them know that you're going to be sending over the plans directly. And Jen can forward you back Bill's email. She can copy you on the response to Stantec.
Okay.
If you don't mind doing that. I know I'm asking you to do some of my work, but if you can humor me a little bit, it'll help move it along. All right, so we got through that. Kate can advise us as to moving forward on it. As far as the path thing, we'll figure that out at some point.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
It's not a done deal at this point. We do have some people in the audience. Do you have anything else that you want to?
The only thing is, now that we know we're moving forward with Stantec, do you need an additional sum to be funded in that 53G account?
No, what we're going to do is, right now, that $5,000 is still there.
Okay.
Right? So I'm the one that made that recommendation to fund it at $5,000 with a minimum balance of $3,000 because we can't obligate more than what's in the account, right? So then that gives you time to
Yep.
replenish it a little bit, not run it down to zero. But I only picked that number out of the air, and that represents nothing. So obviously, if you look at their fees in here, if we know that we're going to be doing these tasks, then it would be reasonable to fund it for the tasks that we're going to tell Stantec to do.
Yeah.
Right? And you're in the loop, so it's not like
Yeah.
we're just telling, hey, put in X amount of dollars and we're spending it like we're on leave, right?
Right, and
It's just reasonable, and that's because if there's not enough funds in there, we can't authorize it, and all it does is stop the process,
Yes,
right?
correct.
So that doesn't help anybody.
yeah, correct. Well, I do think that the totals would be at least somewhat, revised downward. So if you or your administrator can check with them and then, email me and Dean Harrison, change my email too, the amount of the check, and then Daniel can come by and, get it deposited.
Okay. You have anything else to
Nope.
add? So, what's that? Go ahead, Les.
Your group submitted on July 21st a list of waivers and bylaws that you're requesting. I think what would be helpful, if you can add in just a justification for each one of those.
Yeah, I'm not there yet.
Okay.
I'm not there yet, so we'll get into that afterwards. What I want to do is acknowledge the people that are in the audience.
Absolutely, sure.
That way they have an opportunity to speak. I'm going to move.
Yeah, I assume that they would want to come up here, too?
Yeah, I'm going to let them come up.
Yep.
I'm going to just move that other chair over in case there's multiple visitors. What I'm going to do is open it up to you guys on the floor. If you just raise your hand, I'll acknowledge you. You're going to state your name and your address, and just hopefully calmly, politely explain your case. Yes.
Joe Cicero, 14 Southwest Main Street.
Yeah.
Some of the concerns I have from the gentleman here is, first of all, talking about the wetlands delineation. Prior to last meeting, I had submitted letters, or was submitted by Donald Friend from Ecotone, who's also the Conservation Commissioner from Millbury. He talked about where the delineations are actually of what's going on in that watershed. And I have this that I showed. And also walked that property with Adam Kushka, who is the wetlands, the cold water wetlands advisor for the Mass State. He submitted a letter too about, well, can I show?
Yep, you can show it.
So this was the original plan, and I think the main concern now is not the fact of the plan itself. All right, we'll go this side first. Oh, actually, we're going to go this side first. Sorry about that. This is a vernal pool. It's actually, when Donald Flynn's submission for the letter from Ecotone, he had photographs of the egg masses, and I actually submitted a picture of the fairy shrimp, which is an endangered species, in here. This is also a tributary that goes in and connects to Centerville Brook. Centerville Brook, on your original plan, was just out here. Actually, Centerville Brook branches off at the Beaver Pond. It's on one side of the trunk line, which what they had, but it's also on this side. Centerville Brook is a trout stream. It's a cold water habitat. And it's also the tributary for the town water supply. And so I think before they say use the plan that's already there, the plan that they already submitted didn't have this as the part of the Centerville Brook, which is going to change things this way. So wherever they're going to be able to do so. Also, you know, the fact that this actually can. No.
Now we're on the backside.
It's upside down, no? So Centerville Brook is on this side, and it comes in off this side of the trunk line trail. If you walk the trunk line, it's not an intermittent stream. It's always running. And it comes in right here. Now, the other stream that came from the pond here comes through the camp, and that connects in here also. That's also a tributary to Centerville Brook. And when you go and you take care of, you put this basin in here, it's not only affecting the habitat there with the endangered species, and there's also a hognose snake here and a wood turtle sighting here that have been documented, but it's town water. It's just, you're going to be compromising these streams by taking out all the gravel. It's the fact that gravel is an ester. That's what we live in here. That's why we have clean water. You take all that gravel out, that sediment's going to get into these streams, it's going to affect the town water. So I think before you make any plans on anything itself, I think that you have to have.
Yeah, you just present it to the board. You're not going to go back and forth with the audience.
No, I don't need
Yep.
to. I don't
Yep.
need no
Yep.
disrespect. So,
Right.
no disrespect.
Yep.
But submitted to the board here was a letter from Adam Kushka from the Cold Water Fisheries. Should show that maybe that this has to be an environmental fact that can be taken care of. And also, Donald Flynn is the conservation agent for the town of Millbury. He's the Ecotone, and he did this delineation. He also had concerns about the capacity of this septic system so close to the town water. especially when you're taking out basically a lot of the filtration for it to put that septic system right there. So that's a concern that I have, that there has to be a major study and to understand what's happening here.
Yeah, well, the positive news is it Mr. Peters? Or Mr. Freeman?
Yes.
Peter Freeman, yeah, I'll get there. Mr. Freeman had explained that their intentions are to file their notice of intent with the conservation, so that would most likely be the appropriate board to bring all this forward to.
Right, but I'm just not thinking about the plans being made without even a delineation of this wetland map that they had was wrong. Their stream is here, and it's, so when making the plans, they then consider it.
Yeah, plans being made and submitted are different than plans being submitted and accepted, all right? So they're entitled to come in with their opinion as to what they think it is, and that's where the consultants would come in and confirm and deny whether they're correct or what you're bringing forward is correct. I think that's the proper process, to allow the Conservation Commission to review all this, because this is their area of expertise. If you remember on the first meeting, I'm the one that brought up about the retention pond, which then they changed it to a subsurface stormwater. But it still has an overflow that goes to that little vernal pool, which I pointed out that is full of peep frogs and turtles, right? You go by, you can hear them at night, they're almost deafening. And then if you go during the day, you can see the turtles all lined up, right? So again, they're gonna have a revised plan that they're gonna submit. And then I'm assuming that's what we're going to work off of until there's recommended changes or concessions made to that plan.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for coming in, Joe. Anybody else in the audience? Yes?
Kristen Gonzalez of 38 Southwest Main Street, so direct to butters. I share all the same concerns that have already been voiced. I just wanted to just make a comment too. I know the plans are going to be changing, but abutting our property line, the property drops off. It's a pretty steep slope there, and I'm no expert in reviewing plans by any means, but it looks like they are going to be going into that slope a little bit. I'm just concerned about any potential erosion down the road. I don't know if there's any plans for like a retaining wall to prevent that. I just don't want to end up with no backyard, 10 or 20 years if that slope starts to erode. And then my other concern too is, which I know has been voiced many times, is the traffic. I know it looks like there was a study done fairly recently in the beginning of July, and I noticed that it was in the same location as it was last done. And I think, I'm not sure who on the board had mentioned it when the first one was done, that it was kind of on the opposite area of concern.
I was the one that said that.
Yeah, on the other end, and I noticed it was in the same location. I didn't know if there was any plans to assess the speed of everyone coming down the hill, because they're going to obviously be at a higher speed when they hit that intersection versus after the fact when they've started to slow.
We haven't received anything, so I don't even know if it's if they did the traffic study or somebody else did it.
Okay.
Because with all this Amazon stuff going around town, or talks of it, at least with all these warehouses and whatnot, there's the town did 3 different traffic studies around town just to get a baseline on what the flow of traffic was. Now, I recall on their first traffic study, they did it for 2 days, and I think they got 2 different speeds. One in one direction was 42 miles an hour, the other direction was 46 miles an hour. And that's a concern. In the wintertime, school's open, you're going to come over, and the Connecticut traffic comes flying over the hill, and there's a school bus at the bottom, it's going to be a problem. But that's something they're going to have to work through with the consulting engineer. That's one of the things that's on their list, is the traffic study, and try to figure out how they're going to address that. Did you do another study already?
I don't know if it's another study, but...
Well, one was done in like March or something, March or May. No, March, maybe. It was before Memorial Day.
Because I know something was submitted, I don't know if there's
And
any, we've been talking to the consultant in the last look at that, and we'll submit an updated, but I can't speak to the details of what that would include, whether they need any additional.
Right. At least I would. I don't know if anybody else on the board would have an interest in it, but I would like to have some input as to where the traffic study is actually done. And I think it should be done closer to the top of the hill to get a real idea of what the speed of traffic, not necessarily the amount. That's not going to change wherever you do it on the street, but the speed is going to be a big thing. That street there, somebody must be a new kid in the neighborhood because he's got a motorcycle and he has gone down that street in excess of 100 miles an hour recently. You can hear him coming almost from Thompson before he even gets down there. So I'm not in the butter to it. I'm more than 300 feet away, but I do live on that street. So I'm concerned with the traffic as well. Anybody else? Okay, I think, go ahead.
Just on the traffic, the need, I think we highlighted that when the traffic report was done was in off-season and stuff like that.
Right, definitely, yeah, before Memorial Day.
Yeah, so I think we highlighted that to the applicant about revisiting that. So just want to make sure that's on the record that we did highlight that because it was done in a March timeframe or something like that, which was really not where traffic was going.
You have something you want to add, Mr. Freeman?
With the air conditioning, I couldn't hear.
Oh, come on, you can come back up.
Yep.
Nobody else wanted to sit up here, so if you want to keep the chair, you can.
I'm a glutton for punishment.
That's it.
Just kidding. Thanks.
Did you hear the comment?
No.
No, okay. So when the first traffic report was brought before us, it was done, I believe, in the March timeframe, which wasn't in the peak season of the travel on that road. And so at that time when it was brought before us and for discussion, the board, recommended, hey, you need to take it during really when the road's being traveled. Which is more in the summertime because it'll use the lake and other things. So there was some recommendation there to revisit the traffic so it's more accurate versus an off-season.
Yeah, and Tanya, when, I went back there, we did do updates. I don't know the exact dates, but we'll definitely take that into account and discuss it with our traffic consultant and provide you the information. I think there were 3 additional updates, so we'll send that to you.
So if they did do it, one of the issues that they have, they're waiting until, they're doing it down on the flat area of that. I don't know if you're familiar with that area or not.
Oh, yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
Okay, so they're down at the flat area where, not too far from where that hydrant is that's down the bottom. The problem is that's after they've already come down that hill and done all their braking to the bottom of it. They get a true feel for what the actual speed is coming over the crest of that hill, and that's the danger of that area. If you're in the wintertime and you have a school bus that happens to be going eastbound and stops in that lane, and there's traffic coming westbound, and you come over that hill too quick in poor weather, it's going to be a big problem. That's what my particular concern is, and it's been echoed by some of the members of the board. It would be helpful to get something up at that. In a location that's different. And I voiced that after the first time, because the traffic count came back at like 1,872 vehicles per day at 46 and 42 miles an hour, depending on which direction you were going in. However, it was prior to Memorial Day. We have a state beach up the street that's packed by 8:30, 8:45. Every weekend. You have a racetrack that's up the street, and they put a road course in to help with the flow of traffic for us. So there's a tremendous amount of little cars that come zipping up the street and back down the street. I think you're going to find that your traffic count is up probably another 30 or 40% from what that first report was.
Sure. Yeah, we'll talk to him about that. And I'm certainly familiar with seasonal changes being on the Cape, although I do projects all over the place, but sure.
Anybody have anything else they would like to ask or add? Just for a recap, they do have a revised set of plans that's going to be coming in. It's going to be submitted to the conservation for a notice of intent. Under our bylaws, once you submit to the conservation, you also need to submit to every other board, Board of Health and everything else simultaneously. That is in our bylaws. So that should address your septic questions and concerns that different people have had.
Okay.
Anybody on the board have any questions? Yes, Margaret?
So we'll be getting a fresh revised copy of the plan
Yes.
when they, and this is what, the third revision?
Well, again, that's typical. I mean, that's the way
Yeah,
40B is.
no.
But yes, that's correct.
So we'll be,
We're going to, in my mind, this is basically going to be the first one that we're taking that's going to be reviewed. These other ones were thoughts, I guess, for lack of a better description. Mark, when you send that set of plans to Stantec, could you also send it to Jen Kutcher so we can get a copy of that, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a rather large plan, so it may be in the form of Dropbox link.
Okay, that's fine. That works.
so are we going to get a full set of hard copy of the plans?
We can have Jen print us out a set of plans. How many pages are going to be to that, Mark?
It's around 20 pages or so, but we can get you a hard copy.
Yeah, if you can get a full-size set down so we can look at it, would be helpful. 2 of them.
I'll give you one of my 17 as well.
Yeah. Yeah. But 2 sets of the larger plans, that way we can keep one in the file in the office and the other ones we can pour over. If we mess them up, we still have one. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Freeman or Mark? I guess we're good until you get your revision up. And so just a little recap, you're agreeable to Stantec's thing, that'll be hashed out, and will be, Kate will be in communication, I would imagine, to come up to an agreeable direction. We're going to go with this paying for the legal fees.
Right. Agreed.
The first part, I have to get some clarity on it. I can't even answer that. I don't know. I know I got questioned on it, and I'm like, I wanted to run down the hall, but I couldn't.
Yeah, okay. So I think we should set a date probably towards, I would guess, the end of September to make sure that there's peer review and back and forth for the next hearing date.
Yeah, we can't set a date until we have a set of plans.
Well, I mean, you can't set a date if it has to be continued. Again, that's fairly routine.
Well, are you coming
Otherwise,
to our next meeting?
I would intend to, yeah.
Okay, so our next meeting is the first Wednesday in September.
Oh, you mean the next regularly scheduled one?
Upcoming meeting is September 2nd.
Well,
The meeting after that is October 7th.
well, so that schedule presents problems, and, you know, it is also quite common that there's a special night for a 40B project. September 2nd, and I appreciate you're willing to have us then, but Mark, that's probably too soon for any back and forth with Stantec and you. Would you agree, or do you think it's worth doing it on September 2nd?
That is kind of a short time for going through that set of plans.
Daniel, if you have any comments, chime in, but in October 7th, I will be out of the country. It's a long planned vacation, but I wouldn't want to move it out any further. So I would say, if you can't give us a special date the end of September, then schedule it for October 7th. It would be really the technical things anyway, so my absence wouldn't be that big a deal, and I have, colleagues at my law firm. If you want someone to come, a colleague from my law firm could come that night, so it seems as though that's the logical thing to do, schedule it for October 7th.
Those are normally scheduled meetings, is September 2nd and October 7th, and I can't obligate the board until the chairman is back in on September 2nd. So if you're looking at sometime towards the end of September for a special meeting, then on the September 2nd meeting, we could take a vote to see if we wanted to. It all depends on what our caseload is, right? So if we don't have, like this meeting here, we don't have anybody else that applied, right? So we meet the cutoff point and nobody's applied for that, and the chairman decides that he wants to ask the board if they want to meet, and I'm just picking a date, September 28th versus October 7th, and it's agreeable, then we can notify you and make that happen. So what date are you out of the country? What's the latest that you could meet?
I'm out of the country on basically Saturday the 2nd, so it's really October 1st, so it'd have to be before that. But I think it wouldn't be that much sooner. Why don't we, for simplicity and clarity, let's just continue the hearing until October 7th.
Yep.
That will work, and, you know, and in addition to, we're back and forth with Stantec, but also, I know we want to get started with the Concom. So, you know, by that point, it presumably would have been at least one hearing with the Concom.
Yep.
So that'll give all of us, you know, more feedback and information. So October 7th makes sense. Let's just do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you can just fill out that little form for us. Now, I'm going to get back to what Les had started talking about with the waivers. I got to figure out what I did with my list. They're over here. The waivers, as in everything else, I have no problem talking about them, but I would prefer not to make a decision until the chairman is back here on the on September 2nd.
I agree. I don't think it makes sense to talk about the waivers at this point anyway, because they, you know, you need to know the revised plan.
Correct.
So in order to talk about them. So I prefer that you talk about them only at our hearing. I mean, not September 2nd, but
No, that's fine.
Yeah, agreed.
So we're going to table this list, and you may change your list between now and October 7th.
Yes.
Not that you will, but anything's possible.
Good.
Yes.
Through the chair, could I just add?
Yeah.
Since you've got the list of waivers here, could you just add, I guess, just justification? Because usually when folks request a waiver, they'll justify with a little line or reasoning. Just
We can do something. I mean, it's, you know, a lot of it gets so technical, it's like, you know, you don't want to create a tome, but naturally we have to explain to you.
Yeah.
And we can, you know, if it's not, I mean, I have it,
It's just typical. When people request a waiver,
I understand.
they'll say, hey, you know, for whatever purpose, I don't want to.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got it.
Okay. What is the LLC? Is it South Woods? South what? Westview, that's what I know, it's not the same. Okay.
Sorry. Yep. Thank you.
Motion?
No, 1 second. Good with that?
Yep.
Okay, you want to make the motion? I can hand you this.
Oh,
You have the dates on it, and
sure.
Actually, it just popped into my mind, and since we're not going to meet until October 7th, I'd rather raise this. If we're correct that the dates that we should show is that the first hearing was April 1st, and the 180 days would be the whole month of April, May, June, July, August, September. It may not be exactly 180, but that's when, unless we agree to an extension, you know, the regulations say that's when a decision is supposed to be made. So I don't want to have you guys worrying and uncertainty and do something after the fact.
according to this, it says decision date for a comprehensive permit is 40 days after the close of the public hearing.
Right, that's correct, but what do you calculate is the 180 days when it's supposed to close? Do you know when, I mean, our record show was April 1st was the first hearing.
But I also think there was, 3 meetings? We meet once a month. There was 3 meetings that your applicant requested, requested not to be at the meeting, or was unable to present.
Well, there was one meeting that this gentleman filled out a continuance because somebody couldn't technologically join our meeting. You couldn't meet it, so
I understand.
this gentleman filled out a continuance.
I raised it in good faith to see if you want to talk to me, and we'll do what's necessary. We're not going to spring on you, October 7th, that it should have been done October 1st. But you can check it, Kathleen, if you want, to, and get back to me. And, if they're comfortable that there's no reason for it, that's fine. But I just wanted in good faith to make you aware of it, so that's all.
So if I'm quickly doing the math, I think September 27th, if it was April 1st.
Yeah.
So that would be 180 days. But if you agree to an extension in writing.
Right.
That's acceptable.
Right.
But you should put that in addition to.
No, I know, that's why I raised it.
Right.
That's why I raised it before you voted.
So
Yeah.
let's just add language to that.
I mean,
that says-
we may need to extend further, but why don't we just do it, say, October 31st? The close of the hearing.
No. This gentleman filled out an extension already for 30 days because you couldn't make the meeting. That doesn't get eliminated.
I don't, okay, no, I'm not being difficult, I just don't know what that extension was. I thought it would be the extension until August 5th, which is tonight. If he signed one that already extended the 180 days, that's fine, I'm just not aware of that.
Well, no, you came back at the next meeting. That's not a and that's not a, we wouldn't have you fill it out if you're just coming back at the next meeting. I wouldn't even ask you to fill this out if you were just coming back at the next meeting.
Yeah, why don't we just, since you already signed it, I don't want to start writing on it, but why don't we just add where you checked off continuance of the hearing on the application to October 7, 2026, and the applicant further agrees to extend the 180 days, because we will, by
Agreed,
October
but we
7,
need
you
a
will
date. We
already.
just can't do it open-ended. We need to extend the 180 days to a certain date.
So, I'm kind of puzzled there. So we don't have a plan submitted, right?
And I understood, but
Yeah.
if you, I just don't want to get into a disagreement, and I'm not really saying anything much different, other than that the normal protocol is that you pick a date, and the things that you said are valid. One hearing was because of the Zoom connection thing. There are new plans, although that's not that unusual, but if there's a lot more time than the end of October, when we meet on October 7th, then, we would, to a virtual certainty, we would extend it again. And I just can't advise my client to agree to something open-ended. And the only reason I raised it is to protect all of us, so we don't get into a misunderstanding and say, well, this, that, the other later, that's all.
So, if I may,
Yes.
Mr. Chair. So you're in agreement that there's not going to be a decision on October 7th?
Oh, absolutely, I just mean closing the hearing, and then the 40 days kicks in. From whenever we agree the 180 days ends, yeah.
But if I could just finish, we don't think that October 7th is going to be the close of the hearing, because
Realistically,
there'll be a
probably
new
not.
plan, and so we may need many more months.
Probably.
So my recommendation would be add some language here that in addition to asking for a continuance to October 7th, the applicant agrees to extend the 180-day time period to close the hearing until, you could say until October 7th, but then we're going to ask you on October 7th to sign another one
Right.
that goes, and it would make a lot more sense and be a lot more efficient if you picked a date well beyond October 7th to sign on this one.
I agree, that's what I thought I said. I said October 31st. I agree maybe more time would be reasonable now. I mean, we do want to get as far as we can with the Conservation Commission, both Mark and Daniel. If we put it into November, it certainly meets what you're saying.
So, April 1st, if that's the date, I don't have them in front of me, I'm going to assume that April 1st is when you submitted, right?
No, when the first hearing, that's
First
when it's
hearing,
counted from.
April 1st. 6 months later is October 1st.
Right, but with the 30 days versus 31, and, you know, Ms. Connolly counted, it was
So
September
let's just-
27th, but roughly it's the same, yeah.
Yeah, we can figure out the 1 or 2 days. I'm looking for the bulk of it. April 1st, October 1st, right? That's just
Yep.
hypothetical numbers,
Right.
because it is roughly 6 months,
Right.
right? This gentleman filled out an extension, that should bring it to November 1st. This extension should bring it to December 1st. This is what's in my head, so you need to tell me how I'm incorrect.
Well, I don't want to say you're incorrect, you know, certain, you know, plans.
So you can say I'm wrong, I don't care, I've been wrong
No,
before.
but the point is, if you want to, if you're okay, I'd agree to say whatever date in November you want to have as the current agreed-to end of hearing date. Doesn't mean your decision is done by then, but the end of hearing date, so.
Yeah, as of this date, it would be extended out 60 days past, so from the original termination date, it would go another 60 days, because one extension, 2 extensions, 30 days, 60 days.
Yeah. So
That's how
I
I'm
understand.
logically following this.
So, again, Mark and Daniel, speak up. Again, we have Concom, Mark, November 27th.
Right.
I don't know if that's a weekday. It makes sense to do it on a weekday, but conceptually, I have no problem with that.
Right. So- And that's the other problem, right? So if you, and I'll let you speak afterwards, if you had filed simultaneously with Conservation as well as this board, right? Because Conservation's not going to make a decision in one meeting. Doubt very much that's going to happen. And our time expires, but we can't make a decision until we know what Conservation's going to require for different things. That's
Yeah.
our typical practice on this board, so
I understand.
with the extensions, if we're bound to those 180 days, I would say that it's going to become 240.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make it November 27th,
Well-
which realistically is that, you know, that's Thanksgiving week, but
So yeah, December 7th is our December meeting, I believe. And then, yeah, that's our December meeting. If you look at the extensions, for the 2 extensions, there was also 2 meetings that the applicant didn't present before us along this timeline at all.
yeah. I mean, I'm okay, because I'm conceptually okay, so now we're just figuring out the date. Mark and Daniel, if you're okay, then I'll sign that for December 7th for the
And
vote.
if I may, Mr. Chair?
Does that make sense
I
to
added
you, what I
language.
just said?
Yeah,
Okay.
but I would add it to here and let him finish it and sign it. If he agrees, if Attorney Freeman agrees with what I added to that, and you can fill in whatever date.
Oh, did you know that December 7th is Wednesday, so, okay, yep. Okay. There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's continued to the first meeting in December. Well, that's the...
Well, it's
not
continued to
continued.
October 7th.
It's
It's
the,
extended.
that's the expiration of their,
Yeah,
of their time,
right. So
barring any other continuances.
if you,
And if it has to get extended again, we'll do that
Yeah.
at a future meeting.
yeah.
I'm going to read it, and you can just, so
100%.
if that's what you want. So the applicant, Westview LLC, on today's date, August 5th, 2026, for the property of 30 Southwest Main Street. This is a comprehensive 40B project, has asked for a continuance of the hearing on the application to October 7th, 2026, and the applicant further agrees to an extension of the 180 days to December 7th, 2026. It's signed by Peter L. Freeman, attorney, so I need a motion to accept that.
So move the motion as read.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So it's unanimous that it's your 180 days is extended until December 7th. If for whatever reason you cannot get us those plans, so we can get a response to you by October 7th, we're going to have to enter into some other continuance.
Sure.
I think that's reasonable.
I understand.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
just one question. So you'll be filing with the Conservation Commission next week, the way I understand it?
Their intentions are,
Expect to, yes.
they're going to have
what
their
they-
final plan, it's going to be reviewed by their consulting engineer, and then it's going to be filed with Concom for an NOI.
So I'm assuming you're going to be submitting the stormwater calculations to the Conservation Commission?
Yes.
Because I don't know if the Conservation Commission has an engineering consultant that's capable of reviewing that.
The Conservation will figure that out.
Okay.
Right, so Jen is also the administrative assistant for Conservation as well as zoning and planning. If they in need of a consulting engineer, logic would tell me that she would say, well, there's already a consulting engineer on that project. You may want to consider using them.
Stantec. Yep. Okay.
Makes sense.
Yep.
And if there's any objection from your side, then I would definitely voice it. But it's only going to benefit you by having one firm versus having two different opinions coming in, because we'll all be chasing our tails.
Yep, I agree.
It's a valid point. Thank you for bringing it up, Margaret, but I think that would be a smooth way to handle that.
Okay, great.
Thank you for coming in,
very much.
Mr. Freeman.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, now we can hear you. You guys are welcome to stay. We have an exciting rest of our meeting. We're going to review some minutes, sign some vouchers, and just look at our report from Haley Ward for the North Brown. If you decide to leave, we'll be disappointed, but that's okay. Have a good night, everybody.
Do you want me to stay?
No, you don't.
Okay. Enjoy the rest of the night.
If you guys can excuse me, if you can just review the minutes, I've already looked through them.
Sure.
Would you have something else?
Nope.
I'm just going to talk to Kate real quick, and
I have a
then,
question for you, too.
yeah, and then I'll be right
All good?
back. So if we can
All right.
review the minutes. and-
Nice rest of your meeting.
Yes.
Actually, if I don't come back in 2 seconds, I've already reviewed them, I'm fine with the minutes. If you want to just do the minutes for me.
Sure. Just to get June 24th minutes, huh?
No, we're doing that.
I think I was in Maine that week. Yeah.
That's just the ZBA, that's the Stantec thing, I'll sign it.
It's still continuing, right?
They're continuing, they're
Yep.
doing minutes.
Yep. You think?
Yeah, make a motion to approve the,
Oh, Ronnie's still going. You reading them?
I'm all set.
You mean, okay.
okay, make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of June 24th, 2026.
Second. He seconded it. You got to call for the vote.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, well, I got to abstain because I wasn't at the meeting.
Right.
I couldn't make a motion on the vote. Ron, I couldn't make that motion on the vote. I wasn't at the meeting.
Moving here.
All right. July 8th. Guess who wasn't at the meeting?
You again?
No, you're in there.
Oh.
Ron.
Yeah, I missed that meeting. I don't know how the hell I did.
We were worried about you.
Huh?
We were worried about you.
Yeah, we had to.
I don't know what happened.
We had to send out the troops for you.
Like where they, two meetings in two separate.
And I think that was the meeting. Hold on, was that the meeting?
Started at 6:30.
That was a good discussion
Yeah,
meeting.
so I kind of just, I went from.
You know what, Ron? You missed that meeting. That's the meeting we approved the light up in North Brown.
It is.
You missed it. Yes, remember that? Like the one meeting you missed, we approved the light at North Brown.
I don't want to hear that.
I wanted to hold it for you for the
Yeah, we
next
thought,
I
I
wanted
thought you were going to buy ice cream that night. That's it. So,
Boy, that was enough for me.
yeah. Is everybody,
You guys ready?
yeah?
We'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes for Wednesday, July 8th, 2026, as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And one abstained since Ron wasn't at the meeting. So, good stuff. So here we just, I know we're going to look at North Brown, and Mike will be back for that. One thing that was on our, not on our schedule, just so everybody knows, I think we have a November meeting, November 4th. That's our, it's just not in our minutes. And then I think September 2nd, December 2nd. It's
What
not in.
about it?
Yeah, what about it? We're just putting it on our calendar?
Put it on your calendar. Don't want you to miss the meeting, Ron.
Whatchamacallit calls and says, my packet's ready. I know when a meeting is.
But you don't come pick up the packet.
Huh?
Then you don't come down and pick up.
No, I always come down and pick up
Do
the
ya?
packet.
Okay.
What do you do?
When she sends out the email, okay,
Yeah.
I come down and get the packet.
Oh,
I don't know. You know what I mean? What do you, Margaret? You come down, swing by, pick the
I always
packet?
get my packets several days prior
See?
to.
Yeah, there you go.
Don't ask me.
No comment from Jim over there. It's all good. All right. Well, I guess we can look over the Haley Ward memo while we're waiting for Mike to return.
Remember the, up there on Vine Street? That Vine Street is Pine Street. That they had a camper there.
Yeah.
What's going on with that
Oh, he's still working on that project.
there? What?
He's still working on the foundations and that's about it.
It's a humongous foundation.
I thought he'd get built by now.
Huh?
I thought he'd get built by now.
I know.
I like the way they put the North Brown tracking list together. It's kind of cool. All the comments, the dates and stuff. Can't believe we're on phase 4 of that project, huh?
Amen.
Phase 4, the final lap on it, Ronnie.
God.
Since we're on North Brown, I did drive up there. I think they got 2 foundations in last time I drove.
They do.
there. Yeah, it was 4 units, 2 foundations.
It was what?
Two foundations, 4 units, because there's, multipliers of 2 there. So, I did drive up there when with heavy rain. I haven't driven up there in a couple weeks, but
I was up there last week.
okay.
How many times
They were
a week
already
do you
starting
go
to
up there?
frame. Twice a month,
Why?
because I got,
Nothing.
another road to drive. That's all. Go up there to see, maybe the lights have changed. Okay.
send my BPT students up to do the Sutton Conservation Commission for me tonight.
Oh, good.
Because I was here.
Good experience for them.
It was a great experience for them, absolutely. They didn't get approved, but
That's all right.
that's correct.
Doesn't take it's a 2 meeting effort.
Yeah. You putting a deck on that house on Chestnut Street?
Uh-uh.
No? Why? Yeah.
Not me.
What?
Not me. Nope. No, I'm done. That's what they desire. That's what they're going to be for. Oh. No good?
I'm good.
Where did he go?
Stepped out for a minute. What's left on our agenda?
I don't know if there's anything left. Oh, signatures and vouchers.
Yep.
If there are any.
If there's any. Post signing stuff. Folders. Collection of the folders. Get that yellow one. Throw that over here. Collection of Jen. Ron, can we get you yellow? No, sir.
So doesn't it seem like it's 40B is...
Yeah. Yeah, the North Brown, yeah, it's come along a long way. And from where it started to where it is, and I'm glad we get the site inspection memos. Those are helpful for us to review. I found, what was it? They were trying to do on North Brown, last year they were struggling to grow grass in June, you know, and drought season. Like, it was the worst drought trying to grow grass, so. All right.
So the only other thing we have is the Haley Ward reported. Did you go through that last?
Yeah, we had the time.
Yep.
We went through it.
So what else you got? Anything?
No, unless you have anything to sign.
Nope, I only have to sign this
Okay.
thing. All this is our engagement thing with Stantec. I don't think I signed this. I think this would be Nick, so I'm going to leave this until tomorrow to find out. And if we're supposed to sign as far as Dan or I, then one of us will stop back and sign it. I think that's a safer thing to do.
100%.
With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Ronnie, would you like to stay any later? I see that as a negative. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much.